We're continuing on, finally, with beginning at slide number 56, continuing in chapter 14. I think we left off talking about measuring equipment. These are some images of different types of scales. You've seen in lab how important a small portion control scale is for weighing out small amounts of food. The other images here are of scales that are more typical to be seen at receiving docks. The lower right-hand corner is a Baker scale, and it really doesn't matter if they're older or more contemporary, as long as they're there to accurately check the weight of incoming foods against invoices, as well as, of course, for ingredients and recipes. Measuring by volume, we've talked about in lab. I don't think I need to elaborate on many of these. The one in the center at the bottom, many people would call it an ice cream scoop. In fact, it's actually known as a disher, and it's an important portion control tool. They come in different sizes, and the size is accurate when the scoop is leveled off. So unlike a round scoop of ice cream, you would serve a half a cup of a pudding or a vegetable by using a disher that measures out 4 ounces or a half cup, and it's level to the top. And again, they come from very small to very large sizes, ladles and measuring spoons, and the one on the top left is a 1 gallon measure that could be used when you didn't have maybe a meter to measure out water to your large pot that you were cooking in. We've used thermometers a little bit in lab. This is that internal probe type thermometer that measures the internal temperature of the food. This is a simple, inexpensive one. There are others that are much more complex, but again, it measures the internal temperature of food. We'll move on to different types of cookware. These are some of the typical kinds of materials that you'll see, and we're seeing more and more silicone products, so don't be surprised about that. These are some of the shapes of pans and pots. Typically a pan has one handle, typically a pot has 2. That's not always the case, but sometimes you'll see that. The saucepan can come in sizes from 1 quart, usually up to about 5 quarts, and then sauté pans or sauteuse is the lower right. A sautoir is one with straight sides where you'd have more liquid. You might want to brown something first and then add a liquid to it. And then a similar version that would be for braising is known as a rondeau or a brazier, and that's also a straight-sided pan but with deeper sides, usually for cooking with liquids. The stock pot with a spigot is helpful for draining stock without having to move a heavy pot that might be sitting on top of a stove. I think you've all seen woks, and woks are used in institutions just like they are in your home. They just tend to be a little bit larger. And then the hotel pan is the top right image, and those are the pans that a full-size hotel pan is typically 12 by 20. The depth ranges from 2 inches to 6 inches, and those fit in chafing dishes, and most typically the steam table kinds of arrangements that are commonly used in cafeterias that keep food hot until it's served. These are the typical materials that pots and pans are made from. Stainless steel is quite common. Aluminum is much less expensive than stainless steel, and it's very serviceable for a lot of products, but it does react with some foods and will change color, and so for some occasions it's not appropriate. Cold rolled steel, we have one cold rolled steel in our kitchen labs. We'll be using that even more when we make our omelets and our crepes. Teflon lining is used some at home, not too often in restaurants, simply because it's not very durable and tends to chip and wear. More commercial environments are moving to anodized cookware, which would be a brand name of an anodized product, as Calphalon, Anilon. There are others. It's aluminum that is electromagnetically treated to affect the surface. And then, of course, copper is used sometimes as a liner. Pot fillers are kind of convenient. They are used initially in commercial environments, but we see them now in more and more home kitchens. The image on the lower left, you can see pot fillers faucets that are positioned over the steam tables to fill them. The one on the right is more like what you'd see installed over a home stove or home range. Very convenient for putting large amounts of water in a pot without having to carry it from your sink. Heavy equipment includes that equipment that's normally stationary in a commercial kitchen. These are some examples, ranges. This one has a salamander, which is a broiler over the top, 2 ovens on the bottom, open burners on the top, and a griddle. And again, that configuration can be varied depending on what the purchaser needs. The range is typically the upper surface. The oven is what comes below. This particular configuration has both open burners and a hot top, meaning it has a flat area with burners beneath it. Sometimes that hot top is configured like a griddle where you can actually cook on it. Other times it's a different type of material that actually is used to keep a pot hot, but you would not put something on it like pancakes or a grilled cheese sandwich. Typically a stainless steel exterior, but not always. And natural gas in the West is the most common fuel that you'll see used in commercial ranges. Usually a conventional style of oven would be beneath this configuration, although frequently these come with also a convection oven. These are some different types of ovens. The one on the left is a typical convection oven. The one on the right is known as a deck oven. If you've ever worked in a pizza restaurant, you might have seen a deck oven. It's designed this way so that it has a very shallow oven area, but it gives you lots of surface area where you want the crisping factor that you would want for a pizza crust. It's also used in many bakery environments for other baked goods. This slide I added a little bit since I gave you your version of the slides. The top oven is one that you might see in a home environment. It combines both a thermal and convection or conventional and convection oven along with a microwave in the same oven capacity or oven cavity. The one on the bottom is known as a combi oven. As yet, I've not seen one of these in a home setting, but they're very common in commercial environments. It includes conventional heating, convection heating with a fan, as well as steam injection, so that you can cook with any combination of those that's most appropriate for your business. A convection oven like we have in lab, actually we have a combi oven in lab, but we haven't used the combi feature. We've used it only as a convection oven, is characterized by shelves that are closely spaced together, a fan that's included in order to move the air effectively so that you can put a large volume of food closely spaced and make good use of the limited floor space that you have. It can produce a high volume of food, and the rule of thumb is typically that you can cook food at about 50 degrees lower than in a conventional oven. So an item that would be cooked for at 350 degrees for an hour would likely be able to be cooked in about 40 minutes at 300 degrees. So it's both a time saver and also an energy saver. And this configuration has an oven on the top and a storage rack on the bottom. It's very common in high volume operations to instead just have one oven stacked on top of another. So it would be 2 convection ovens in one footprint on the floor. Here's a broiler and a grill, a couple of images. The one on the left in this image is a tilting skillet or a tilting braising pan, and the one on the right is a steam-jacketed kettle or steam kettle, and you'll hear more about those later in another class, but just so you have some idea. The one on the left kind of looks like a microwave, but it's actually a steamer, and it can hold several pans of food where steam can be injected and cook the food by steam. And then, of course, the one on the right is a deep fat fryer. This cooking line in this image is what we'd call, it's a line. It's primarily gas-fired equipment. There is a steam-jacketed kettle on the right, a tilting braising pan in the center, and then a combi oven on the left, some of those things that we just talked about. And those are all primarily for moist heat cooking, but you could also dry heat cook in any of those. That tilting skillet, for example, has a flat surface on the bottom, and they're quite commonly used for things like making stir fries and grilled cheese sandwiches and those kinds of things, as well as making moist heat cooked products. Steaming is a very popular style of cooking in both institutional and home use. This image is a steamer. The side panels are removed from it, and so you can get an idea. This is a very large steamer. The one on the bottom is the steamer insert that you might put in a pan to use at home. It leaves you with a moist product. It will tenderize food. It has a high yield because it's adding moisture to the food rather than removing it. And it's very effective for batch cooking, meaning cooking food in small amounts so that it stays continually fresh through a meal period. This is a good image of a commercial fryer with all of the elaborate equipment that's involved in filtering the oil. One of the most expensive parts of frying food is the cost of the oil itself, and so preserving and taking care of the oil in a commercial fryer is oftentimes a significant part of the structure of a commercial deep fat fryer. This one also has automatic lifters that will can be set on timers and will lift the product out so that you don't always have to have an attendant standing right in front of the fryer.